started long before I started professionally in '74. I come from the Chase Murray clan. That's my mother's side of the family. My father's side were Burchells. And they all were into crafts. My aunt Nancy Chase, her first works were done from her grandfather who loved to whittle wood. So that's how she started. But her workshop opened in the early '60s, and I went to school across the street. As you know, her shop's on Public Court, school's across the street, and my mother, Phyllis Chase Burchell, worked for Nancy, so I would go there after school and wait for my ride home. And they would say, go sand those whales, go sweep out that thing, go mow the lawn. So I literally started in the early '60s just by osmosis. Excuse me. Get myself acclimated over here. And it was wonderful growing up here. It was a different world altogether. It is now. I'm sure old people always say that because, I have a history now. I grew up in Nancy's shop, which was very small when it started. It was just 2 little rooms and with a pot-bellied stove, and she would sit there and just do what she loved. And we were just consumed with it, all of us. And we all were very similar. So she started her shop with, when Jose Reyes said, make me 50 sperm whales. Now I've heard a lot of stories about how she started, that he asked her for 500 sperm whales. That's not true. It was 50 sperm whales, which she was happy to do for, I think, about $50 a piece. And she just loved it. I mean, she just loved the whole idea of being able to be a woman, first of all, in the '60s, and do a business of your own. It was almost unheard of. But then there were other women who were doing the same thing. Aletha Macy was in that same era. The wooden jug women who made baskets, same era. Mr. and Mrs. Giffen, Bill and Jean Reese. These are all basket makers from the 50s and 60s. Never mind Jose Reyes, there were many people who followed suit. But Jose would come in Nancy's shop, and as a kid, I mean, he was exotic to me living on Nantucket. He was Asian, he was different, he looked Asian. I mean, he was Filipino, but to me, he was like, he could have been from anywhere in the world, but it wasn't here. He wore the hat that you see in pictures, the basket hat, I mean, and he was darling. He was sweet and wonderful. And he loved just come and sit in the chair beside Nancy, and they would talk about whatever they were working on. Mr. and Mrs. Giffen would come to the shop. Her thing was, she was a grand old lady. When I was probably 10, she was probably 70s, and she would come to the shop in an apron and a dress, and she made molasses cookies the size of your head. And everywhere she went, all over the island, when she made a batch, she would bring like a staff in the freezer. So it's funny, like, I'm not talking about basketry or ivory, but these are the people that made the industry what it is now. Aletha Macy, famous ivory carver, and her partner, Eleanor Ham, they were just fabulous people. My parents, the Burchells, started my Comet Raceway, and we raced ponies as a kid, another sideline. And Aletha Macy was one of the pony racers. I mean, just the independence of these women, and they weren't afraid to do anything. So that's my lineage and sort of how I, have led my life, fiercely independent, for good or for bad through the years. But that comes from that Chase Murray stuff. They say that we have whale's blood and sea salt in our veins. Also for positive and for negative, We don't like to be told what to do. We're just, we're very strong alpha people. Again, for very bad. So anyway, I started professionally in 1974, working for Aunt Nancy, and my first job was turning things on the lathe, making knobs and pegs in the back room. Pegs. That's how she pulled me in. And one day, she got a basket like this, and it had Sydney Morris's scrimshaw. She was the only one doing any color work at the time. And it was all worn off. So Nancy said, they want it recolored. Do you want to try it? And I was like, all right. So I sat with scrimshaw at the desk and re-etched this fabulous blueberry spray. and became really good at it. And I was like, oh, all right. So you can stay at the scrimshaw desk, and that's how that started. And I worked for Nancy for 10 years. I was very successful doing color because, again, Cindy was Paul Morse's wife. She did some scrimshaw, but not a lot. And so I really just took it from there, and we did jewelry and bracelets and everything you can think of. Nancy always made it possible. It's like, what are you thinking? What do you think you want to do? And we could do anything. Anybody in that workshop, it was like being Santa's elves. And we often joke that was our job at Christmas time, for sure, to make sure everybody got their gifts on time, and special items was our trade. So I stayed with Nancy for 10 years, worked with my mother. My aunt Susan Chase Ottison made baskets. We worked with all the basket makers at the time. Michael King, everybody you could think of came through the door. And again, just being able to be totally creative. Nancy was just incredible. If you could think of something she hadn't done, she would be so excited. You want your pig, you want your dog, whatever you want, we will try to do that for you. So it was always exciting and great to go to work. But after 10 years, again, that fierce independence, even for my own family, I really wanted to go on my own. So I met Alan Reed, and he was making baskets, but not professionally yet. So he offered me the workspace in his basement, in his workshop. Okay. So I moved in and started working for myself, brought my clientele of the previous 10 years with me, and then he just, as a basket maker, was just for me forever. And I worked together, was just fabulous. I mean, not patting myself on the back, I mean, I was honored to be able to work with him. I mean, you'll see his work in here, it's just spectacular. And he took a lot of the traditional molds, like he would take a mold like this, but he would reshape it into a much more artistically beautiful shape. And that was his key to success, as well as his woodworking skills. He was a furniture maker and repaired antiques before he made baskets. So he brought all that to the industry. Paul Johnson as well, the two of them were very close friends, and the two of them had that fabulous woodworking and artistic skill that they brought to the trade. Sorry, I can't catch my breath. So I'm most well known for this design you see everywhere, the floral island. I did that in 1983, and as soon as I did it, Nancy said, you need to paint that, you need to copyright that, that's going to be popular. And I was like, really? All right. So we did some things. I made a poster, and I still make a good deal of my, I'm still recognized for that today. I also did the Patriot Nantucket that you know about, the flag of Nantucket, red, white, and blue. I did that after 9/11, so that was 2004. So back to Alan, I worked with him for 10 years in his shop. We created the Sailor Boy baskets, just all the stuff you've seen here. Overlaid iron handles, and that was probably the height of basket industry in my career. I was probably bringing in 120,000 a year. I worked 6 days a week, 9 to 5. I mean, we really worked hard. And again, Alan had that, what can we do that's different? What ideas can we put together that will, add to what we already know? So everybody that came along added to what they knew from Jose Reyes, what they knew from Bill and Jean Reese, all those people that came before. The newer people just kept building on that, just made more. The golden basket, industry, the jewelry industry, all that comes back to Jose Reyes. None of this would have happened without his creating the cover on the French press. Today I work in my own studio out of my own home just because it's fabulous and I'm really close to my coffee pot. After I left Alan's, I went to Susan Chase Ottison's for until about 6 years ago. And I'd always worked with all of the basket makers except really Mike King, unless a customer asked for it. He had Dorothy Grant Vieira, who passed away this last year. So really, there's only two of us left on Nantucket who work professionally. Mike Bonneau, and myself. David Lazarus is around, but he really doesn't scratch much anymore. He does paint and stuff, and he teaches, but it's really just the two of us. So it's literally, as my heart's beating so fast, dying art as I stand here. I teach a lot, but I don't think anybody could really make a living at it at this point. It's been very difficult to try to break in. We all came from like family dynasties, I want to say at this point. You know, I came, got it from his grandparents from Village in Greece. And you know what I mean? Like, we just have invested so much of not just our professional life, but our life. So I don't see that's going to happen in the future. Never mind the fact that people are turned away from animal products at this point. I'm using a lot of mammoth ivory and fossil ivory now. I will not really ever go to plastics, is not my thing. So I'm not sure what else I can say. I see there's a few baskets here. If anybody's interested in showing out their basket, their little story. We'd love to hear that if you have questions. Yeah,
I have a question.
Sure.
So I got my first basket when I was 9 or 10 years old. I was vacationing here with my parents, and I got a Gibbs bag. And my mother got a Jose Ray bag. And what I really liked, and my father wouldn't buy it because it was expensive, in Althea Macy's shop, there were, I don't know if it was your work or not, there were all kinds of berry vines. Was that your work? Or?
Could have been. I never worked with Lisa Macy. I mean, she was retired before I started professionally. I really only knew those folks as a kid growing up.
So I've seen one or two on the wharf of the old bags that had that.
It could have been. The only other person was Sydney Morris, really. Tom Morris's wife, and she had fabulous beers.
Oh,
and that's how I said that.
Blueberries and strawberries. That's good.
Yeah, Sydney Morris probably.
Yeah.
And Mr. Gibbs, I didn't really know him, but I do know that his baskets are the most difficult to repair of all baskets ever made. Because he did something with the finish on the end so that they had to repair the rims and the wrap, they were stuck on. So each piece, as you go around, normally pull out the whole thing if you have to repair, but his, you could repair a little piece, and the next piece, and under the wrapping, there are nails, and then wood putty, and wood putty over the nails. So to repair a Gibbs basket is quite a feat. And in basketry right now, my aunt Susan Ottison is formally retired this year. Michael Taine is formally retiring. So, like I said, these family dynasties are disappearing very quickly. I know I've sketched over so much I probably shouldn't be talking about, but you know, it's been a long life in this profession. I've loved it very much, and I still work. I have health issues, so sometimes I work a lot less, but this year I'm doing well, so I'm trying to catch up and do the best I can to stay in it more as a community function than my profession.
I was wondering if you could tell us about this basket.
This basket is called A Pirate's Life, right? Yes, it's the Alan Reed basket. This ivory piece is called an apron, which he developed. And he developed it, the customer came in and she actually was the founder of the 1800 House with the NHA. She was a fabulous lady who loved baskets in the industry and made baskets herself. And she said, I want to make a sailor basket. So Alan developed this look, as well as on his covers, you'll see this apron sculpted for her. And then from that, we did these type of baskets again for about 10 years. I mean, and we still get, you know, the people who have these little baskets with these aprons, these are the treasures of industry, in my opinion. You know, it's the most, it's taken basketry to the ultimate in every way. That's what made Alan fabulous and Nat Plank, is that they took everything about basketry, how they shape the stage or uprights, how they make their molds, how they shape up everything is so artistic and so perfect. The woodwork and everything is really taken to its height. And I'm just honored to work with both of them. I still work with Nat on a daily basis. Of course, his stuff, you know, it's really tiny. So this was a commission. It's a sailor's life. Each scrimshaw depicts a different thing that a sailor would be doing in his life. And actually for me, that's the most fun thing. It's not the scratching, it's the coming up with the idea. And that's basically how it's what's made me, not famous, but known. Is you can come to the shop with any weird idea you have, and I will make it real somehow for you. And that's the only one, it's just you. You know, it's your special piece. So, and that's what Nancy taught me too. So in this, and then on the star, it tells you what's on the basket. So we have him scrimshawing, repairing nets, working on the ship. Unfortunately, this one is shipwrecked. And he's like Robinson Crusoe, whaling, filling his chest, fishing. It's just quite a piece. But now I haven't seen her for a while. Welcome home. He's looking at the stars to navigate. And you can all look at this. And these ivory overlaid handles, this is all elephant ivory, which you're really not going to see much of that anymore because of these large expanses of pieces. I mean, and the ivory ears that they developed are spectacular. Nobody ever did this before where this much ivory or the ear would be exposed. So this again, it's just so fabulous. I mean, it just is. This is an oak stay basket, which stays again in your uprights. It's a burled maple bottom. I mean, it's just beautiful. And of course the weaving is exquisite, you know. The overlaid handles, there's a big process to make those. They're steam bent, just like the handles are. The ivory is soaked. Some people use fabric softener, some people use vinegar. I'm supposed to tell you either one of those things, it's a secret. But you can bend ivory and tie it in a knot and it's wet, and it will dry that way. So it had to be thin to tie in a knot, but you can manipulate it that much. I don't know what else I can say. Any other things you did? Yes?
How about that big nest you did? How many baskets?
I did a nest with Kathleen Myers. It was 10 years to complete. The owner, it was a commission, and it took the basket maker like 8 years to complete. Every basket, 18 baskets. I don't think has ever been done in history before. The biggest one is like a bushel, it's about this big, and then they go down in size to, you know, super mini. Every basket had an overlaid, not a full overlay, but the overlays graduated down as it got smaller. The outer basket had a huge band like this. And I was to do the story of the woman's life, pretty much, everything about her. So the first time I got to meet her, I got to come to her house, which was fabulous. And I wanted to know what am I going to do? What does she really love about Nantucket? So that's what I asked her, what do you love about Nantucket? So she says, I love the fog in the morning, and I love the way the light shines, and I am just terrified. I cannot do fog in the morning. I can't do the, you know, I was terrified. So I had gone there with my camera, with my notepad, and I came out with an empty camera and empty notepad. No idea. So the relationship between her and I mean, I actually know everything about her because, you know, you just keep build 18 baskets, 18 themes. Her family, her love of her garden, her collections, which are vast, collections of baskets, collections of fine china, antiques, her family, so we have her children and their lives and what they love to do, and everything Nantucket. So my work, Kathleen made this entire nest with all the ivory parts. They had, every basket had ivory ears and this ivory handle. So that was my part. So she made everything, then she deconstructed it. So she made a basket like that, took the rim off, took this ear out, and then gave me a box like this with all these parts. Again, terrified, absolutely terrified. I'd never done anything that fast ever. And it did take almost 10 years for me to finish it. And the client, of course, was fabulous. And every once in a while I'd be like, "Did you send me $3,000?" And check it out. And I worked for another few months, and there are rolls and rolls of drawings and sketches that I have. I mean, it's just, it was just a lot. And I work very, I want to call it organically. It sounds weird, but that means that I start in one spot, take one step, and then I build on that. So we start with your family, we build on that. And so that's how that all progressed. And hopefully it will get to the museum. She is fond of the museum, but she did not want to part with that nest for a while. She wanted to live with that. And when we gave it to her, I thought she was going to faint. She really had not seen any of it. I had sent her pictures like, "Look at this, that's my stuff." But even when you see it all done, it's amazing. Just because that much. 2 years, I want to say 2 years ago. Yeah.
Is it here on the island, or?
Yes, it's here. It is here. And she is affiliated with the NHA. And I'm sure she will all get to see it. And actually, the basket maker, we were going to create a book, and she still probably will. So there are professional photographs, et cetera, of it. Just the experience of us trying to get this project off the ground and finish. And actually, the basket maker story is fabulous because it started with a tree. I mean, that's how she started with a tree, a burl, so that all of the bottoms of these 18 baskets had the same piece of wood from the same tree. She started with a tree. I mean, who does that? It's just, really? So she had so much invested in it. I mean, it was just spectacular. But it really about broke us. I mean, it is a lot. It is a lot to think about. It's a lot to complete. I never thought I'd complete it. So I started with some of the bigger baskets and worked down, but I saved the big band for last. And her band is literally like that. It's huge. So there's 4 pieces. 2 pieces, and then they join here with a giant scallop shell, I believe, and on this side as well. So there's 4 giant pieces. Main events in her life are pictured, and one of the most endearing things was she shared with me the story of so much of her life, but she was adopted. So she's a very highly successful woman, and she shared with me this kind of story about meeting her father for the first time as an adult. And so there's a very special, very small basket with a full ivory handle. As little baskets do, I think the last 4 have full ivory handles. It has, I put footprints. There are footprints that come up this side, and then there are little ones that come up this side, and they meet in the middle. So that's her, special little about her dad. And that's what we try. I always try to create that special moment for you that means something to you. Because you're going to carry that.
And she get impatient, waiting 10 years.
I'm sure she did. I'm sure she did. But she knew, she understood and knew the difficulty and how huge it was, the project. She knew what she was getting into. And she was just fabulous. And in my career, she's like the best client that ever came along because I never had a job of that magnitude. But again, when you do these jobs you've never done, I want to say, if you ever in any kind of business, add 20% because there's so much that you don't know that's going to go wrong. So even though I'm sure the price tag, I don't know what it was, I don't know how much my work cost, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you break it down into the weeks and hours and months that you spend, I mean, it was really reasonable in the end. And the basket maker too was like, yeah, definitely. If I had to do it again, and we always say that when we do something for the first time.
Did you see this basket maker?
Kathleen Myers, who worked under Alan, so her work is very similar. She's very similar. Yeah, she's great. Anything else? Yes?
Do you have a favorite project you've ever worked on, or was that it, or was there?
It was probably my least favorite job because I felt so pressured to finish it. I've never had that kind of pressure. I like stuff I can do and have it done tomorrow. That's the best part about what I do. Through the years, I mean, I got pretty fast, so I could do this probably in 3 hours, 4 hours.
Oh my word.
Probably shouldn't tell you that, but there's certain things that I've done so much that I could get through pretty quickly. And now, I'm doing a lot of teaching now, which I really enjoy. People are really shocked that I can give you a circle. One of the girls here is where I want you to go to a lesson, and in about an hour and a half, you're done. Mended underneath a ship, inside of the hull of a ship, and the ocean is moving, you know? You can do it. You know, it's not that hard. It's just very concentrated. You know, I've worked under a magnifying glass now all this time. And every once in a while, I think I'm so through with this. I can't do this. I want to paint a giant picture. You know, and every once in a while I do. Then I'm, you know, back into my zone. And I literally could work right here. It doesn't take anything. There's very little tools. You know. And I like that quick gratification. I can start this, I can draw it, and I can be finished with it, and I move on to something exciting. Not so much with that big job. That's why it was so so much.
When it was completed, were you very proud of yourself?
I was, but truth be told, like I told you before, I was like, wow, that's fabulous. But when I actually saw it finished, I was like, okay, because I had been living with those pieces for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I've seen all that, you know. I mean, when it was all put together, I really wasn't as like, oh my God, as I thought I was gonna be. I was, oh my gosh, because it was just such a huge amount of work all in one spot, which I've never had myself, you know.
They say a chef, when they taste something, it doesn't taste as good to them because they've been tasting it.
That's right.
And so they're habituated
That's right.
to it.
That's
So it
exactly
doesn't have
right.
that wow factor.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe when you see it after a while.
After yes, and I would love to see it. I mean, I have seen it all different ways. I've seen them all laid open, which you really have to because all these ironing pieces are different, and it's really fine work. Like now, as I get older, I'm trying not to be as detailed. Like there's a lot to be said artistically for the less you do, the better. I mean, but my work is typically very busy, and there's a lot in there. And with her stuff, it's really a lot in there. And not only is it pictographs, pictures, but there are music, lyrics, and poetry on every single one, which I'm about to tell you that. So the music, lyrics, and poetry was another side of this person. I was like, what?
Yeah.
You know, this is a fabulous woman, you know, and you just, the things you don't know about people. So kind of find out she loves to go walking on the beach in the moonlight in the middle of the night, and she loves Joni Mitchell and like all of this stuff, and it's all in there. So there's Joni Mitchell lyrics, and I kind of re-water them through everything so they don't jump out at you, they're behind everything. Poetry, Nantucket poetry, William Wire poetry. There are quotes from people like Nathaniel Philbrick. There are quotes from there's a guy at the museum, the guy who did this, I don't know if it was him or his brother, the Civil War movies.
Oh,
Ken
yeah.
Burns.
Ken Burns.
Right, one of the Burns. There's quotes from him. Also just all about Nantucket, but just like when you read it, you're like, yeah, that's right to it, right to the point. So it's been a great ride, I can tell you that. My life has been incredible here, really. Yes.
What about if you make a mistake? With
Sandpaper.
or the ink?
I haven't had too many big mistakes. Most of the mistakes I make are like quarter boards and things like that, which I do a lot of. Like traditional names like Susan, and somebody puts a Z in it instead. No matter how many times I read it on the piece of paper, I'll put an S, you know, like stuff like that. Easy. Those are easy fixes, but if you make a mistake on a basket top, it's not so good.
Yeah.
Because if I have to take a little bit, and there'll be an indentation. No customer might never see, but I know it.
Yeah.
You can do that. So the biggest mistake I ever made was a basket at Allen's. It was a diamond shape, which is spectacular, right? On these sides, 6-sided top. And when you open the lid, her lady's house, which I hate to do people's houses, but once in a while you gotta do a house. Because an architectural drawing is very hard, it's not my thing. Anyway, so she wanted her house, so when you open the basket, there's her fabulous little cottage, right? Well, when I work on a basket, it's all together, I gotta do something with the basket, it's in my way. So what I had done,
Upside down.
did the whole thing upside down. So it was one of those jobs I stressed over, took me not 2 or 3 hours. Not everything is 2 or 3 hours. Things I don't do like houses really take a way long time. So I was crying, I was heartbroken. I'm like, Alan, we're gonna sand this all off, it'll be another week. So she walks on me. So I open the basket. She goes, that's fine, not everybody can see it. I got off easy. That was my worst mistake, but she was incredible. So I don't remember her now, but thank you out there, because it was like my worst nightmare. And she made it like, it's fine, I don't mind that. Now when I open it, you can see it. So there you go. That's the fun stuff though, like stuff people want. A lot of the insides are more fun than the outside. Because people, I do a lot of like mermaids and sailors represent their children, and they'll be holding things that they love. And so when that lady opens her basket, there's her kids inside, you know what I mean? Just little sweet things like that. Yes.
Did you do your pen?
Yes. This is a piece of whale ivory, what we call a cross section of a whale's tooth. And one of my customers does jewelry work, and she does pearl work. So that's a nice little pearl on there, and I just worked it up the pearl. And I think I did 2, one for me and one for her. But yeah, it's one of my favorite little things. Again, it's very little scrimshaw, but it's just enough.
Yes.
And I learned that from Nancy. There's a big difference between my work and other artists' work. My work was to accentuate the ivory but not cover it. Less is more. It's better. So when you see like Dorothy Grant-Viera work, which is spectacular, it's edge to edge covered. Also Mike Minow is a bit like that, but I just didn't learn like that. I learned from Nancy. And I still just carry all those lessons with me. I also had Paul Morris as an art teacher in high school, in junior high school actually. And I still use his lessons today. I went to school with his daughter. Another Morris, very talented Morris, and we're still friends today. Island girls. But one of the lessons he always taught us in drawing was how to make a ship, and you start with a figure 8 laying down. And I can't show you, but it's very simple, and it turns out like the perfect way to start making a boat hull. And every time I draw a ship, and they're Paul Morris, just those little things that you take with you forever. Anything else?
Beautiful. Thank you.
What do we have here next? I know you've got some things here. Let's see what you
beautiful
brought.
bracelets that we.
Oh, aren't you sweet? So these are bangle bracelets, which we had quite a few of, but no more. These are things that came and gone. That's traditional for me. Wild roses, thistles, and chicory. Here's her initials, and lovely whales. Very nice, thank you. And she takes care of them immaculately. Thank you. Wow.
And my basket, Susan made my basket.
Yes, it's beautiful. Classic Susan Chase Ottison basket, ebony top, Nantucket Chase sperm whale. Anybody in the basket industry. You can identify most of the baskets at a glance. Everybody has their own handle. A lot of people have their own knobs. Jose Reyes is the only knob that went right in, all one piece of ivory through the handle and into the basket. Every basket maker has its own identifying marks, like footprints all over it. And you can usually tell most of them quick. Yes, anything else? Thank you all for coming. Everybody, some bumper stickers too, and you can get them on your way out. Networking fair, the Nantucket Floral Lab.
Thank you.
For everybody, I hope you enjoy that.
I love it.
You know, call me anytime if you need anything, I'm doing it as much as I can.
So if you're working at your house, do you operate like a shop or do you call before you?
I have a little studio, which is literally a shed, but it's glammed up a lot. It's a showcase. And you can come out there, but you do have to call, because the older I get, the less I'm in there, or, you know.
Yeah, makes sense.
So where are you now? This is the last
I'm
time
on
I
my
saw
comment,
you. Oh, yeah.
Mizzen Mass Road.
Oh,
Yeah. I live on a piece of family property that actually, at one time was in Bill Severin's, it was purchased from Bill Severin's from the town for back taxes. My father bought 100 acres in my comment for $35,000. And I still live on a piece of that today. Most of it's land back land. So you can come out in that area and they have fabulous trails up there. But I'm on my family property. It's just hanging on with everything I can, you know. And my kids live on the property, so, you know, we'll keep going as long as we can go. Thanks.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you for coming out today.